Again, Imran Okoth there giving his victory speech after he was officially declared the MP-elect for the Kibra by-election, and he garnered 24,636 votes. And the second in place was MacDonald Mariga of Jubilee, who garnered 11,230 votes. And of course, we have to mention the other popular candidate among the three that kept coming up on that list was ANC's Owalo Eliud Okech, who garnered 5,275 votes. So definitely this was top of mind all day yesterday, and the reactions will be coming in fast and furious in the course of Friday. And to help us look at the implications of this and also just do an appraisal of that by-election and what it means to politics in this day and time, we have Cynthia Mutere, who is political analyst. Thank you. And Muthiora Kariara, who we all remember as the former presidential candidate's running mate in 2017. Thank you for your time. All right, so I must ask, for you, Muthiora, you were here with us in the morning. Are you surprised that the results are as such?
I'm a little surprised. It looked like it was a tight race, but then looking at the final results, we realized that it wasn't as tight as it appeared to be. I expected ANC to do better. I expected for the gap between Mariga and Imran. If it wasn't certain that Imran was going to win, but it was expected that the gap would be a little tighter. Now, looking at the statistics, you realize that Imran got almost over 50% of the vote.
Yes.
So you can say it was a landslide victory, which is not what many anticipated.
Okay, so the votes cast were 41,984, and he garnered, that is Imran, 24,636, a huge gap, definitely from his second competitor, that is 11,230 of MacDonald Mariga. Cynthia, are you surprised or are you expecting it?
Not surprised at all. We were actually expecting it. And let me take this opportunity to really congratulate the MP-elect Imran Okoth for garnering that win in Kibra. It was expected. It was expected. There has been a legacy. Imran is not new to Kibra residents. He's worked as the CDF manager. He ran on the campaign of continuity from his brother's legacy, and we had seen a good job that his late brother had done, especially in the educational sector. And when he ran his campaign, he said that we have projects that we want to complete and things that we want to do, and we've been working together, and if you give me this opportunity, I'll be able to deliver this. So it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise that he does come in with such a win, and we really do want to congratulate him for that.
Okay, and yes, you mentioned that he actually was not a stranger to Kibra, and the fact that he was also the campaign manager and personal assistant of his late brother, Ken Okoth. I mean, that in itself already gave him a foot in the door, if you may call it that. But also, do you think, Muthiora, he ran on the emotive votes?
He did. And just look at what the campaign was built around. You can't quite pin something to any of the candidates. Yes, we've heard about Liwe Liwalo, but then what exactly does that stand for? When you look at Mariga's campaign, the only popular thing we remember he said was how they were going to build toilets when people are throwing insults at them. But then for Imran, it was always about his brother, Ken Okoth. Nothing substantive. It was about the work his brother had done. So they did capitalize on the track record that Ken Okoth left, and it's a good thing that Imran was part of building that. And then there's the emotive parts, not entirely, but then kulikuwa na kurudisha mkono.
I see what you mean. But then again, Cynthia, there's critics who are looking at this from this angle, that as much as he was there to actually, back the projects that his brother started up and the development in Kibra and all that, there are other places, both within the country and without, where if such a situation or scenario happens where the brother or a family member passes on and you take over as a relative and you
Yes.
actually win as an elect, the track record is normally not the same.
The track record is not the same, and so we see in this by-election it's a bit different, because what takes on is a morphing from the candidate's campaign to a more national campaign, where you have the party backing and the party leader coming into this campaign, because this has been his bedrock, and he has been the MP of the area for over 20 years, I think, from 92. I think when, at the advent of multi-party democracy,
Yeah.
I think he came in with Ford Kenya. And so you find that there has been that, a lot of rhetoric on what has been done, of the manifesto that was already put in place by him and by his successor, who was the late Ken Okoth, and then now the next person who's coming in, that they would carry on with this blueprint, because he seemed to have charted a way where we want to go, where the Kibra we want and what we envision. And so it's a different by-election from other constituencies, where someone would run maybe from your predecessor's record, and probably if they didn't do too good, that wouldn't be something that you want to be running with. But in this by-election, it took on a whole different turn. It became a national campaign. It became issues of national importance and where the country is going moving forward.
And of course, we know that the parties were looking at this as a dry run for 2022. But before
Absolutely.
we get to that,
Absolutely.
Muthiora, we have a brother who's taking over from his late brother. And of course, the expectations is that he is filling very big shoes.
That's true.
What would you expect from him?
Well, I will not be surprised if his performance is underwhelming at the end of his tenure. And as a person who believes in processes, look at how he got there. His brother appointed him. That's what we call nepotism. So when we want to call people out for corruption, he will not be the most qualified person in the room. Take, for instance, people have been questioning why the president has over 10 close family members in government. He will not be in that group of people to point out that this can't be happening in a country where we have over 50 million people. So the process, we missed something down the road. Now, as he gets in, of course, he has this baggage that he has to carry. It would have been better if that wasn't where he started. Now, look at the vision that Ken Okoth carried. He believed that education is the key to unlock the potential of all those who sometimes, unfortunately, are born into poverty. And he invested in that. Now, Imran, in a constituency such as Kibra, with the size of the CDF kitty, he has to focus on an ideal like that. So clearly he will be behind the shadow of Ken Okoth, because it's either he continues investing in education, because if he chooses to go the infrastructure way, CDF is not allowed to do that. So what he needs to do is to distinguish himself when he goes to parliament, to not fit in the crowd, as we have seen most of the MPs do, to stand with the people of Kibra and the people of Kenya, to legislate, to represent their interests and not those of the party alone. Yes.
Okay. Now, let's just take a step back. For example, Joyce Laboso, the late, was elected, and she went in as the MP, area MP, after her sister Lorna Laboso actually passed away. And of course, critics were also wondering if she was going to fill up the shoes of her sister. But with time, she actually proved herself and became one of the first female governors in the country. What should Imran focus on to ensure that he leaves a great legacy?
What he needs to focus on is basically what he was doing best. This is where the point where we actually now see the difference between leadership and management. You can be a very good leader, but with a poor team, a management team, to actually manage your vision of your projects and your proposals, you will be failing. We see that the late Ken Okoth was very articulate. He was a human rights defender. I think he was the chair in the Parliamentary Committee of Human Rights, or whatever committees in there on human rights and defense. And so he really spoke to issues very articulately, and he was very strong on policy. And with that, he had a very strong team at home, which his brother is now managing as the CDF manager. So what he would need to do is probably just work on those skills. He was a very good manager, and he'd need to stick to that. There are people who don't really speak much, but their actions speak louder than their words, really. They're very action-oriented, very pragmatic. And so you get to see their projects, which speak volumes, because that's what the people really want. We find leaders who speak a lot, and I mean, we've had surveys done of people who've spoken in Parliament, and really at the constituencies, there's nothing to show for it. But then there are those who don't speak at all in these spaces, but then at home, they're actually doing something on the ground. So what Imran would need to do is do what he was doing. If he was the manager and we see the successes of those projects, then he needs to continue in that vein. It grows on you. The example that you give of the late Joyce Laboso filling in her late sister's shoes, it grows as you continue to work with it. You're mixing and mingling with these people. You're learning how to speak, how to carry yourself, how to react and act to certain situations. And so you develop in time to become that leader that will match now the work that you've been given to do.
How many years does he have until the next general election?
He's got 2 years. I mean, 2022 will be already very noisy. So he's got 2020 and 2021, really 2 years. You can't even count 2022. That's going to be like we're already in election mode. Yeah. And that volume is going to increase, and really things are going to start changing from this election. We're going to see new alignments and realignments. And so it's going to be noisy, messy, preferably no casualties. Yeah. And so,
so this is the part where Muthiori is saying he should not be caught up in the noise.
In the noise.
Yeah, of the 2022 election. He needs to focus on what needs to be done in the short time he has. Yes. Okay, and speaking about the noise, we all know that the Jubilee and, of course, ODM were going at it, saying that this is actually a dry run for 2022. Do you think Imran would have made it without the backing of ODM leader Raila Odinga?
No, he wouldn't have. The talk has been, this is Baba's bedroom.
Yes, that was clear.
Yes, it was not about what your vision is for us. First, let us protect Baba's bedroom. So clearly, ODM's party leader's influence almost certainly guaranteed his victory. Now, as he moves forward, he has a unique opportunity than his brother, Ken Okoth. We remember it was said back then that Ken Okoth would work with the government at night and then be an ODM MP by day. Now, we've seen Jubilee members of parliament and other luminaries openly come and show their support for him. So he has the kind of support that any leader would desire, which puts him miles ahead. Now, the other advantage he's got is we are in the era of the BBI. By virtue of this by-election, Kibra has been petitioned. So as a leader, he must now work on galvanizing Kibra, healing the wounds that came out of these by-elections. Now, if he focuses on that and does a good job, then he will cut a niche for himself. That besides the good work we did with education, I'm a leader who can bring my people together. Because Kibra is a representation of Kenya. We have all tribes situated there. So if he now moves beyond the people who just voted for him, we've had talk about their Wakambas, their Luyas in Kibra. Now, if he brings all these people back into the fold and shows them that this is what we have to do for Kibra, then Imran is going to be his own man, and he won't be limited come 2022.
Okay, so he clearly even declared in his winning speech that he is a child of the handshake.